What's up, guys? How are you? I miss you already. So, episode 2, Walk Talk. And guess who is the best man today here? Is the special guest? The legendary John Kavanagh. How are you?
Obrigado.
How are you, my friend?
Muito bom.
Muito bom. Thank you so much for letting me talk to you today.
It's a pleasure. I'm only actually figuring out now why it's called that. I thought it was walk and talk. I was like, well, we're not walking anywhere, but walker.
I walk to my guests.
Okay, well, you
And
just
then-
walked across the
Walk
courtyard.
across the
but,
court. And then now you talk.
it's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah. So
A little bit disappointed I wasn't episode 1, but at least you fitted
no,
me in
listen. You
you
could
fit me
be.
in for number 2.
You should be the first, but I don't wanna mess it up without experience. I don't wanna be virgin to you and make mistakes, you know. So I did my first try there, see what I have to do, make some investment, and I have good camera now. Everything's set up, so now we can proper talk.
All right. What's
So-
on? What's the topics?
Who are you? Who is John Kavanagh? What you do? How old are you? Where are you from?
All right, so John Kavanagh, 46, born and raised in Dublin, head coach at SBG HQ in Inchicore, and the last 20 years or so, coaching professional MMA fighters.
20 years. It's a long journey.
Long time.
So people said you have 10 years to master whatever you do. So you double master. You're double master.
Yeah, there's a lot to be said for the 10,000 hours or the 10 years. It seems to be about average for people to get a black belt in BJJ, become very good at playing guitar or whatever skill. they're
Even be
trying
a
to do.
doctor or an engineer, like renamed, or start making money of something. Like I always say, if you start a business, you're gonna struggle the first year, 2, 3, 5, then you start to survive. But 10 years, I'm sure, maybe you'll not be a millionaire, but your business gonna run itself. You're gonna start get profits and return.
Yeah,
You know?
there's a lot to be said for that. If people realize that it is going to be the first years are hard. I think it's something like 80% of startups collapse in the first 12 months. And I do think people maybe go in, whether it's in business or in sport, a little bit unrealistic what they're going to achieve in the first year or two. And I think that's what causes so many people to quit. But like you said, if you know going in, you are going to have plenty of failures, plenty of reasons to quit, plenty of reasons to stop. But you want to be in that top 10% that just keeps on going, keeps showing up, and within a couple of years, if the product was good and if you're training the right way, please God, you start getting some good results.
Yeah, it's like in business or in personal life, in everything, in martial arts, like even me, like I struggle. I stay the first 5 years on my beginning of my career. I make no money. I was surviving. My family send a little money, get some sponsor. Like, imagine 5 years getting no money, surviving. It's crazy. So you have no quit. Like, you have to keep going. You have to believe. If you see some potential and you believe that's gonna happen, you have to keep going.
Yeah, it is important to already accept that there's going to be knockbacks, setbacks. There's going to be a few tough years, maybe many tough years. But if you are in the right environment, you're training the right way, or you're being mentored correctly in business, depending on whatever it is you're doing, that you get through that first 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, you start getting a little bit of positive feedback that will feed yourself, that will fuel you to keep going, and fingers crossed,
Yeah.
inshallah, you get some success.
Talk about mentor. Like, how do we met? You're like now my mentor now. Like, thanks God, I find somebody. I was lost on my career a little bit. You know, I was jumping around. I was flying around because my older coach have this kind of mindset, you know, to go to learn, and we have a little bit messing around, you know, like go here, go there to learn and travel. It's more adventure than like professional focus, you know. And I think we met in 2019 first time.
I thought it was older than that. I thought it was longer ago, so that's only 4 years. You could be right, but
Not sure.
I thought it was maybe a little bit longer than that. But yeah, I think you've had somewhat like almost the best of both worlds, that you had great experiences training with different camps, different trainers. You picked up a lot from, training with some great guys over the years, and then you kind of made whatever a little bit serendipitous that your missus is from Belfast, my missus from Belfast, and they hit it off, and that somewhat led to you spending more time here. And then after a while, I think you and I started clicking a little bit.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's, again, going back to success in life in general. A couple of years ago, you would have never predicted, okay, now I'm aiming to settle down in Dublin. But you keep bouncing around, and
I think you have to settle somewhere to observe and to grow, because I think on the beginning when you start working, even me, I didn't trust much you because I didn't know you, and I don't think you trust me a little as well, because like my history about flying everywhere and training with different coaches. You said, I'm just small motherfucking Brazilian, come here, you're gonna have a little training, like, let him train. You welcome really nice, like you look after me when I'm here, but I don't think you believe that I'm gonna stay because of my history, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I have, as you are well aware, we have a very busy mat. We have a lot of visitors. At the moment, it seems to be very heavy Italian, but it's gone through different phases of people coming from around the world to train. And I love that. It's great. We have a busy mat, and my guys that are there all the time, they're constantly getting new sparring partners, training partners, people to, you know, work their techniques against and improve. So you for sure fell in that category initially. It's like, okay, he's here for a little bit. He'll be good, interesting sparring partner for some of the guys, and I'm going to pick up some stuff off how he trains, considering his high level and the fact he's been with so many different camps. For sure, I'm going to learn something off this. But then, again, kind of a weird set of circumstances between your...
And then you adopt me.
Then
Put me in the backyard.
I haven't signed any papers, just so we know. I can reverse adoption process very quickly. But yeah, I mean, who would have guessed a couple of years later I ended up being the best man at your wedding, and it's just been it's been a very interesting period of time.
For me, it was a life change, you know, because once that I have to put that on this podcast and talk about, but it's gonna be a little bit hard to talk about that because I was coming from a little bit crazy traveling, like dating different girls and starting UFC, start to deal with money and fame.
I want to watch that where you
and
open up.
She changed my life because I was dating a lot of girls and message everybody on Instagram. I was trying to introduce to the fame, you know, everybody want to talk to me, I'm a cool guy. And then when I met a proper girl that she's a serious woman, you know, to build a life with. And I'm reading a book now, is Atomic Habits.
Oh yeah.
And I was have very bad habits. To change their habits was a little bit really hard in the beginning, the rush, because when you find a good person that you want to change everything, like imagine you come dating different girls and message everybody and just hanging out, and now you have a serious relationship. It was a little bit hard, but everything's come together. Serious relationship, then I settle down here in Ireland, then I have a good coach, and I settle on a gym to be, you know, I need to give time to you and for me, so we know each other and see what I have to improve. Like, I'm not gonna come here, make one camp and train and be a good. Like, people take fucking 10 years to be good in something. Imagine if I keep flying around, like I make the best decision, stop with the best coach and learn with the best and keep improving. It's reflection on my career now. Like, I'm number 5 in the world, fight against number 2. Everything's work out, and God wills I'm gonna be champion very soon, you know.
Yes.
So was a little bit it was hard for me to change the perspective of life that I was before to the new one, you know. Like bad habits, then I have to change the habits. It was a fucking fight against myself every day, you know. And as I learn about myself, about everything, I have the little problem with THC and, you know, and it's everything habit, you know. Now I have really good habits. I just train, eat, sleep, repeat, you know, in a good routine with good training, good mentors, good coaching, good nutrition. I fix my life with everything when I settle, you know. And I think it was the best step that I did in my life, like settle and start like focus, you know, to be something. Because you can't be good in everything. You can deal with something, but to be really good, I want to be the best what I'm doing. So I have to settle and make plan, like have a good coach, good nutrition, good strength conditioning, good striking, and repetition, and keep that routine for a few years to learn, to improve, to find the rhythm and be good in something, you know. And I think my life changed after I met Tara, then I met you, and then start settle, and look where I am today. And hopefully, I can see what I'm going, you know. I have to be on the top.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. My coach, he says that if he rolls with somebody for a few minutes, based on how they move, he can probably predict what their personality is like outside of the gym.
Really?
Yeah. And if you think about your fighting style when we met, very chaotic. You know, sometimes it went your way.
My life was chaotic.
Right? So your life was somewhat represented in the cage with how you moved and how you just was a bit all over the place.
Yeah.
And I think as time has gone on, your life outside of the cage has become slightly more structured. Not slightly, a lot more structured. And then when we look at inside the cage, I think your overall style and defense and offense, your technical approach to things is getting tighter and more structured. So it's interesting for me to see that. I've seen it so many times over the years where I feel I can almost, whether if I roll with somebody or I watch them fight, I can probably have a good idea of what the rest of their life is like.
It's actually true. I was beating the guys up in the beginning because I'm not gonna be cocky, but I think I'm talented, you know, and I'm big and tall, good genetic. I just was doing like was supposed to be doing. Like I have to be doing something good, but it was a little bit all over the place, you know. And I feel today like when I'm set and I'm getting better. Like my last fight, I fought Andre Smith. He's really high level guy, and he didn't put me in no danger position because I was tight with my defense, with my attack. I was like very composed on my fight, and this is what my life right now, you know.
Yeah, you're saying. I think in MMA you get warriors and athletes. Like example would be like a warrior is like a Nate Diaz, and an athlete is like a GSP, and you know one approaches it in a very sporting way and understand the point system and know how to win, and then the other is like just want to fight.
Yeah.
And I think you definitely had that warrior spirit, and we're trying to somewhat temper it and put a style around it and understand the rules of the game as well, and where we can be safe and where we're not safe and so on. But it's I think it was Dean Thomas said to me after your last fight that when you started with me, you were kind of this sort of like wild street fighter guy, and now you almost went too much becoming like a gentleman, and now we're sort of finding the right blend where you know you have to go out and put people away, but we have to do it in a way where we can be as structured and as technical as possible throughout it. So you get the good blend of the warrior and the athlete.
So what's the best moment in your career until now?
Wow.
So far.
Yeah. Like professionally speaking, it's going to be pretty obvious. It's going to be, you know, Madison Square Garden, Conor becoming the first ever simultaneous 2-weight world champion. That was amazing. The fight itself is beautiful. You know, I talk about the Diaz 2 is one of my favorite fights in terms of preparation for it, and it's just a war, and that's two warriors fighting, very much so, two warriors fighting. But the Eddie fight was just martial arts. You know, it's a beautiful fight to watch. It's efficient, it's technical. The slow-mo replays of Eddie kind of just sort of bending Conor's nose because he just pulls back enough and then returning. You can learn a lot from that fight. So for sure that maybe overall, besides just professional side of mixed martial arts, like I got into mixed martial arts for a very specific reason. I got into it to try and build myself back up, build my confidence up. Professional fighting was never really in my mind. If you go back 25 years or so in Ireland, even in the UFC, it was quite a small sport, and I never really started this going, okay, one day maybe I'll corner somebody in the UFC. That wasn't it. It was like one day I'll have confidence, I'll believe in myself, I'll have, you know, 20 or 30 students and we can train together and have fun. Like that's what I was getting into it for. And more recently it's been the growing success of Train Alta as a system for introducing as many people who are like myself in my late teens, early 20s that were searching for something to give me confidence, and to be able to bring that on a global level is I'm very proud of that and very excited about where that's eventually going to go.
Yeah. Yeah. What's your plan in the future? What do you think you can achieve still? What is your you have to keep going, keep you moving? Like what you want to achieve more in your life and your professional career?
Yeah, I suppose at the moment, like I'm still in love.
Bring one more champion from Ireland.
Yeah, I do find it ironic. Like I got into this, I was obsessed with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. That's what got me into this, watching the Gracies in particular, of course, Royce Gracie. And I love in one of your fights, we traveled all the way to Brazil to fight a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu specialist who happened to be Scottish. And like I'm kind of somewhat trying to help you improve your Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu being an Irish guy. Anyway, I just felt that whole situation was funny, right? Was funny. It was just bizarre. But of course, yeah, look, immediate goals is yourself being champion. I think we have a number of guys and a number of organizations right now that are really doing well. We're on the eve of a big weekend.
Do you want to conquer the world? Martial art world.
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
Want to have a champion fucking.
But that's great, and they're kind of they're sort of goals. But I tried to just focus on like my day to day. I tried to make sure that I already have my class schedule done out for next week. I know what I'm teaching tomorrow. It's Sunday morning here. I'm just at the finishing watching a bunch of great fights. The UFC Noche, the kind of Mexican card. And watching those fights, I'm at to coming up with a bunch of scenarios that I want to replicate in training during the week. So my class tomorrow, Monday morning class, I'm actually excited about it. I want to go over some of the situations that I was watching in the fights. And I found if I do that, if I just focus on what I'm going to do tomorrow, it's like I'm going to teach as good a class as I can. I think it's going to be interesting for the guys that watch the fights. They're good technical positions because they're common. I focus on the 80-20 rule. 80% of my training is what happens in 80% of fights. So, and then I go back in the evening where I teach my commercial grappling class. So I teach, as you know, I teach mostly just professional fighters. But on Monday evenings, I teach an open class. Everybody can come along to it, open jiu-jitsu class. And I know I'm going to teach in that class. So I'm just very excited about what I'm going to do tomorrow. I give it my best effort. When I'm on the mat, I'm not looking at my phone. I'm fully focused. And if I do that, the future seems to take care of itself. So I try not to get too obsessed about like, maybe do this with Johnny in 3 months' time, 6 months' time, 12 months' time. It's like, no, if you're in my class tomorrow,
let happen.
That will take care.
Do your business every day, and the achievement's gonna happen.
I really believe so. And like if you go back right to the beginning, you know, let's say even if we take the beginning as like someone like Conor McGregor joining me, like at that stage, there was no like 5 years time UFC champion. I didn't think we'd be in the UFC. It just didn't enter my daily thought process. But what did enter my thought process was today we're doing side control escapes. It's going to be the best side control escape class we've ever done.
By the way, if you want to hear his history and Conor history for him and everything, he have a nice book. You guys should do it.
I should have had it here, shouldn't I? Just like
I read the book. It's really exciting because tell every like little detail where he start, why he start, and all of the journey to UFC with Conor and their achievements. And it's going to be really fun.
It's just about to be reprinted in Polish. So
really,
yeah. So my Polish friends out there, you'll have an opportunity to read it in your native tongue. But yeah. So I try to keep reminding myself of that, not to get too lost in 6 months' time, 12 months' time, 18 months' time, but really hyper focus on 24 hours. You know, what we can achieve in 24 hours, I think, is well worth their attention. What the goal is in 6 months' time, 12 months' time, that will take care of itself. So, yes, the book did quite well. And if there's anybody out there that wants to read it in German, it's in German there. And we have Russian.
Russia as well.
Which I thought was quite funny.
I told you, this guy want to conquer the world.
They kept edging me. Every reprint, I got further and further off the cover, and now it's just Conor on the cover of my autobiography. But anyway, Also, we got Spanish there.
Spanish. ¿Cómo estás, amigos?
Yeah, they at least put me on the back of the book there. I didn't quite make the front, but at least I'm on the back there. And and soon to be released in Polish too. And actually, the first language it was printed in, well, obviously
Win
English.
or learn?
Win or learn, yeah. So the first language was obviously English, but the second language was Hungarian, which I found.
Hungarian?
I had no idea that it would be popular there, but
Really?
So we're in 5 or 6 languages now.
I enjoyed the book. In the beginning, I was reading like, it's have a lot of history about. It's detail for the beginning, the troubles, like the injuries and the travels, and it's really enjoyable because you feel and you can see the journey. It's just a journey on the
Yes.
book, you know.
Yes.
And you can understand more about the journey of a fighter, of a coach in an MMA scenario. Is really really nice. What Conor have when you saw him first? Like when you see him, like what did you feel on him when he started? Like he asked you to.
Yeah, you know, again, it's important to take a snapshot of that time at just how small MMA was, certainly in Ireland, but even worldwide, UFC was still quite a small sport. You're going back to when Conor started with me, let's say 16 odd years ago, so 2007, 2008, like it's a long time ago. So, but certainly in Ireland, it was very, very small. Nobody, the average person on the street never heard of MMA.
Yeah.
You know, they all thought I had like something wrong with me because I had funny looking ears, you know. Now, any barbers you go into, they almost ask, oh, you do jiu-jitsu, like, that's kind of strange for me. But yeah, well, so when Conor joined, you know, he's very young. He's only 16 or something. And so I'm not looking at him thinking
But
like...
he had a boxing background.
He had a good boxing background. He had had incredible power for a teenager. He could spar men, you know, and guys that heavy. I remember one in particular. One guy was a decent light heavyweight. He was like well over 90 kilos, and Conor's this, you know, 70 kilo teenager, and he hit him one shot and stiffened them up. I'd never really seen that
Some
before.
people born with that explosiveness and the toughness on the handle.
Yeah,
like I don't know how to explain.
I do, because I ask every boxing coach I meet, I say, like, can you teach somebody how to hit really, really hard?
You know, you have to born with something.
I think
right?
you're born with it. Because if you weren't, if there was a way to teach that, well, then every professional boxing fighter would want to learn that. But no matter, it doesn't seem to matter. You just get guys that just have the touch. Now, you of course want to improve technique around that and build your game around that. But I think it was George Foreman, and he said that, like, if you have, you know, George Foreman was famous for his one punch knockout power. And it's kind of like, if you have that, then you can sort of build the rest of your game around that. And if you don't have that, you really have to learn how to box. You got to learn all the strategies of boxing. But yeah, so I think if there was a coach out there who could take someone who just couldn't hit hard and turn him into a George Foreman, he'd be a busy coach. Every fighter in the world would want to go there because it's such a gift to have. And Conor certainly has that, just seems to have the touch that when it lands, I think it was Faraz who called it the dim mac, the death touch.
Death touch.
You know, that he can be losing, he can be in any position, and, you know, one shot can really equalize the rest of the fight. So that was obvious from early on that he has the touch.
Do you think I have the touch though? Maybe not on the hand.
Yeah, you definitely have unusual fight finishing ability from a number of areas. Like just that one punch knockout power. I don't think quite as extreme as what Conor has it, but you can hit very hard with elbows and with knees. You're sort of an opportunistic sniper that you can develop a lot of power with different weapons in different situations, which is in and of itself an unusual ability. But just that, I think that just that raw, boom, that's just super rare. He for sure has it. And then even early on, just not that I was very much up on professional fighting all those that length of time ago, but you could see this personality, this charm, this wit, this charisma, and you know, you start thinking like, people are interested in this guy, and he can fight really hard, and he has knockout power. Like, you put that together,
Combine.
if we get an opportunity, maybe a promoter's going to really like that combination. And then it was, again, we just went back to like, okay, every day, just make sure that day is as good as it can be. You know, he's 16. We're training 4 or 5 years before any kind of talk of UFC came along. So you had that five odd year period, like we spoke about at the beginning of the podcast, where there's no money in it. You're struggling. You're trying to figure out how to keep up the dream of training and competing, and balancing that with like trying to make a little bit of money as you approach your early 20s, and you're starting to think, what am I doing in my life? But, you know, thankfully for Conor, we're able to scrape together a pennies and get a few sponsors and just keep plugging away. And then of course the break came, what was it, 2012 or something? I'd have to look it up.
When did he become champion UFC, the first belt? 2014?
We'd have to, off camera, we'll have to Google that and then come back in and look like we're really...
But it was around 2014, right? It is, because I started training when he became champion, I think.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. That's funny. But yeah, whenever length of time between like starting at 16 and then early 20s, after doing very well on the regional scene, the notice came in for the April card in Stockholm, and yeah, you know, story goes, I had trouble actually getting him on the phone to accept it. I think he had missed he used to cover a boxing class, and he had missed that class, and he thought I was ringing him to give him an earful for not showing up, which I was as well. But then, you know, also to let him know that the UFC has made the call, and he went in and he had obviously a great debut, and it's been an interesting journey so far.
It was really good, right? And I think I'm reading this book. I didn't finish it, the Atomic Habits, right? And on the book says, when you have a habit or have a routine, and then your brain on that routine, when you're gonna achieve something like that, you have to do, let's say, like you wanna watch TV, right? Just for example, your brain get more, what's the hormone for the satisfaction? Dopamine, yeah. Your brain get more dopamine before you watch the TV. When do you watch actually TV? So you have more rewards just because you're chasing to watch the TV. I want to watch the TV. I want to get home to watch that series. When you get there and you're watching the series, you have less dopamine. You're just like watching normal. But you was more excited to watch, to plug the TV on, than after you actually watching. So just to give an example. So I think it's really hard to choose somebody when you achieve the top and you'll be champion, you will have everything. Like, how do you gonna keep yourself motivated? Because you don't have much to be excited for.
Yeah.
Like what happened with Tyson Fury as well. He had like a little bit depression and suicide thoughts because he was heavyweight in the champion. He have money, fame, everything, and then what the fuck I'm doing now? Like, I achieve everything, and then your life lost a little bit of sense because fucking dopamine.
Yeah.
It's make you go and achieve your dreams and wake up early and be hungry, whatever you have to do, feel pain and keep moving. But because you don't have, and you have, what you want is, you want the fame, the money, everything. But once you have everything, like, how do you keep yourself motivated? You know, it's a little bit trouble when you achieve the greatness.
Yeah, I think there's a syndrome, and they call it like Olympic gold blues, and it's so common for people that their whole life is building up to a moment and they win the Olympic gold. The worst day in their life is the next day, because they wake up and go,
what the fuck am I doing now? That's it.
What am I doing now?
They invest how much in their life to be in that moment that they don't plan after that moment. And then, what am I doing now?
Yeah. I think, like, if we're talking specifically about Conor, that he's somewhat, well, I won't say lucky, he just really does enjoy fighting. You know, with all the money he has and all the connections he has, he could be doing anything he wants, literally anything he wants. Go and live on an island for the rest of your life, and yet I still see every UFC he's tweeting about it. He's still watching it. He's still interested in it. He's still obsessed with it. We still have a lot of intense back and forwards about strategies and techniques, and I don't know if that's the same, like, I'm going to be speaking out of turn here. How do I word this? Like, if you're the Olympic gold medalist in the rings, you know, I'm trying to think of a sport. Like, are they really, the day after winning the gold medal, are they obsessed with new techniques on the rings? Like, the technique is kind of set on the rings. You just have to get you have to get perfect at it.
Yeah.
But I don't know if there's new strategies. Again, I apologize to anybody who's great on the rings. But I'm trying to think of something that when you eventually get to be the champion, that it gets a bit old. So you're a bit kind of done with it. I do think martial arts is a little bit unique in that it's unusual that no matter how long it's gone, 5,000 years ago, somebody stood in front of 10 people and started showing them how to punch and kick. And we still are playing on the mats every day and like, what way did you do that?
You always discover something new, right?
Always something new. So I think it's very...
Even jiu-jitsu, that's 1,000 years martial art, kind of, almost.
Wrestling,
you
forever.
still find a new technique someday, like I did a little detail on that way and I could catch him on this way and turn his head on the other way. And it's still, it's interesting because you can develop
think if you have a mind that's that's curious, like, well, what the hell did you just do? Show me that again. If you have that mindset, if you have that attitude, I think you have a lifelong love of martial arts. You know, so Conor for sure has that. He wasn't as though it obviously worked out professionally that he made a lot of money from fighting, but like Chuck Liddell says, you know, Chuck Liddell had a different job. I think he was an accountant or something. And he goes, if I didn't get money from fighting, I'd still be fighting every weekend, and then I'd just do my job Monday to Friday. I very much feel with Conor would have been the same, that if the plumbing had taken off from and he was doing well as a plumber, he's still going to be coming to the gym. He's still going to be taking some local fights at the weekend because it's enjoyable. So I think as long as the training is enjoyable and, you know, you say like, oh, what's the next goal? Well, you know, if it's Chandler and it's in a couple of months' time, you can visualize making that walk out. It'll no doubt be another massive event. Anything he's involved with is huge, and he has the big walkout, a great fight with a great competitor, whatever way it goes. You know, it's still another great life experience. And when you get into his type of territory, like, what else are you going to do? Buy another watch? Get another new car? Get a new suit? Like, eventually that kind of gets... even though it's hard for us to imagine when you have that type of budget.
I think this is why some people still develop and create expensive things. Like, I saw a fucking car another day on Instagram, they worth like 10 million or more. Like, there is no way one car worth 10 million. Why this car worth 10 million? It's too much. I just put more stuff to make... Because the billionaires, they have everything.
They have everything,
but they don't have this car of 10 million. They create stuff to people keep buying because there's a limit, you know?
And it's funny that what you're talking about there, the reward center. The reward center for somebody that's buying a 10 million car, like you said, very much so, the thought of it is going to be very exciting. Going to the car dealership, writing the check or whatever way you transfer 10 million, that's all going to be a rush. 1 week later,
when you have the
when
car,
that's sitting in your garage with the other 10 cars, you're probably not getting the same level of intense
crazy,
excitement, right? But I don't know, training every day with your friends and like I like to say,
it's a lifestyle as well.
It's a
right?
lifestyle,
it's
right?
Good.
You know, keep you physically healthy, keep you mentally healthy. And if while doing that, you really enjoy the intensity that comes along with competition, because a lot of people, most people train jiu-jitsu or even MMA with not really any massive desire to compete at any kind of big level. They might do the odd, you know, local tournament, but they're not doing it for that reason. They're doing it for themselves, or, you know, to keep themselves physically fit, but also I think largely and mostly for mental health reasons. But there is some people, I think you're one of them, Conor's one of them, that really gets a thrill and an enjoyment out of the intensity and the high pressure, what we would normal people would call the high pressure scenario of international level competition. That to you guys is actually fun. That's an exciting thing. For a lot of people that would be completely, have them bent out of shape with nerves and anxiety, but for you it's not anxiety, it's excitement. It's like, wow, you know, a couple of weeks time you and I are flying to Abu Dhabi, you're fighting a very tough guy, and I think for you, when I see you talking about that, I don't see an anxious person, I see an excited person. Somebody who's looking forward to solving that puzzle, to having that challenge. And very much when I speak with Connor about whether we're talking about a potential opponent or even just a potential talking about a future fight, there's a level of excitement and interest and smile and fun and like I can't wait to do that.
No
again.
worries, like fuck. I'm not gonna face
not
this
that guy.
I don't give a fuck.
Because why would Connor put himself through that? He doesn't have to. Whatever amount of money he would get for his next fight is not really going to make any difference to his future. So it's not that. It's not like for some monetary reason. And you couldn't be sitting around nervous about it. Otherwise you just wouldn't do it. It's clear he's doing it because it's an enjoyable experience.
Yeah, on the beginning, it's all about money first, but once you have the money, you keep doing it because you really love it, you know?
Yes.
Like, one thing that I find a little bit hard is the when it's time to stop, like competing high level, you know? Because many fighters, like one fight that did really well was Amanda. She fucking retired with 2 belts and that's it. She made history, she was the GOAT and done. And what, like, how did you call that out if you love it so much, if you train so hard to do that? Because like what's happened to a designer now, he's a great fighter, he beats everybody, he was the really high level guy, and then you starting getting old, a lot of injury, your body taxed for so long that you start broke and get slowly and get not really good. You find that you arrived in a spot that you can evolve them, you can learn, you can improve them, and you are that. That's it for you. And then other guys start studying, getting improvement and getting better. There is one time that they're gonna pass through and they're gonna eat you. Like, when do you think it's gonna be the time to like, okay, it's time to call out? And you know, it's hard.
Very hard. Very hard. I think
because you have a lot of pride as well. No,
for sure. In fact, I talk about retirement, and I've had plenty of fighters who've gone through that. It's almost like you got to treat it like a debt. Like you had a persona, whatever, Jake the killer, whatever. The killer now is gone. Now it's just Jake, or you know, whoever, whatever fighter. You have to just accept that part of your life is no longer there. And we hope that in the years leading up to that, we were having conversations about the future, about what persona you're going to be, where are you going. You know, obviously for a lot of fighters, it's open up an MMA gym and coach. That seems to be very common. For others, it's different areas of business. Some, you know, you look at DC and these fighters that have gone on to become great commentators. So, you know, as long as I think you're using your time sensibly and productively, and you're networking when you're around all these great people, that there will be opportunities. But we got to be honest with ourselves, and we got to be honest with those who are close to us about when it is time. I liked Robbie Lawler, you know, retired recently, and in his final fight was the dream one. You know, he went out and destroys the guy quickly. And then the journalists ask, well, if you're still able to do that, why don't you keep doing it? And he's like, yeah, you don't get, it's the training camp.
Yeah.
You know, you guys know you can go out there and beat someone in seconds, but it's the 8 weeks, 12 weeks, general grind on the body. That's what eventually is going to get to the fighter. Not necessarily what's happening on fight night, which could be a quick one as it was for Robbie, but it's can you keep up that level of intensity?
Because to beat and do that on that night, you have to walk through 2-3 months of diet, stress, good sleep, routine. Like how do you call when you don't do what you want to do because you have to do this? Like the commitment, right?
Right.
You know, going out, you know, party.
Yes.
So can you keep doing that when you're old, when you have everything, you know, this is hard.
Yeah, if you've not trained and you hear like, oh, you fight 2 or 3 times a year, that's great. Just 2 or 3 days of the year you have to work. No.
You work
you got to
really
work
hard
every day of the year if you want to get the results. There is fighters out there that try and do that, you know, have a big win and then disappear for a couple of months, but that's usually not really going to get anywhere. It's a short career. But yeah, for those couple of years where you're competing at the highest level, there's no days off. Yeah. It's not like you can have, you know, go crazy on your days off. It's like, even on your day off, you're thinking about the day after that, I'm back in the gym. So I better be sensible in how I'm handling my food and my rest and whatever else, my recovery. So I think it comes down to being honest with ourselves. Are we still able to train at that level of intensity? And then, of course, I won't say any names, but you look at some of the fighters from the old days, and their last 4 or 5 fights are like brutal knockouts and stuff. That's when it really comes down to
Healthy as well, right?
having people around you to say, look, you know,
Don't let him go again.
we have to call it a day here.
Because one thing also is because most of the fighters, they come from a poor background and don't have much education. Then they find the word, get that spot on the light, but nobody teach them how to be there, how to do. And financial education is the most thing. Like most fighters make a lot of money and they spend a lot of money, and they have to keep fighting because they lost that money and they want that money back. Like, I think one thing for fight, when they achieve like a high level and start getting a lot of money, fighters should ask for financial advisor, looking for, or have something, because people make so much money and then they lost their all money, and then they have to keep fighting after they don't need anymore, after they get old. Like many fighters, they come back after retirement because they were broke, you know. After my second fight in UFC was in Argentina. I met the California boy, what's his name? Ryad Faber. And he said to me, bro, can I give you advice? Yeah, this was in 2019, I think. And he said, bro, save your money. Like, believe me, save your money. Like, this is the advice that he was doing. Like, back in that day, after that, I spent a lot of money still, you know, open a gym in Thailand without a contract. Not that I lost like fucking $40,000 there. So,
but at least that was an attempt at an investment. It didn't work out.
yeah.
But I'd be much more forgiving of that than somebody buying a shiny car for 300,000. Because I think as well, what people don't realize is when you buy a depreciating asset like that, and the ongoing running costs. Okay, you might say, I can scrape together 300 grand. Now I have this amazing car. Yeah, and then 2 weeks later, you've got to tax it. You've got to insure it. You got to put petrol in it. Oh, you just got a scrape on it. Well, that's 10,000 to fix. And then every year you're driving it. So
this is financial education. People don't know how much expensive is the actual
But you imagine with that same amount of money, you go to an advisor, or you buy a pension product, or you buy a property. Like, that's something that if you in your late 30s are like, okay, well, kind of fighting is wrapping up now. Maybe this is going to pay me X amount per month for the rest of my life, as opposed to buying this car that when you go to sell it, it's now worth half of what it was, and you spent 20, 30, 50,000 a year just keeping it on the road. So fighters, I mean, I think have to be a little bit smart as well and realistic, and use their downtime to educate themselves in this. And there is some, you know, you're with Paradigm, and Paradigm, they have people in their offices that help fighters, I think, a little bit with that post-fighting career decision-making process. But you know, if you're in your 20s and you're starting to get your first, 4 or 5 figure fight purses, and you're going out and buying a Rolex, I mean, that's maybe just not the best idea in the world.
A lot of people do that shit.
Yeah.
Oh, you don't have money. You have money, you want to spend. You think money is for spend.
Yeah.
Money is for invest and make more money. But not many people don't.
And it's so important. If you do have kind of things outside of your life a little bit in order, for example, you have a good woman already, you're a little bit established in somewhere, like, it's so, you're not then chasing stupid shit and throwing stupid money at, like, thinking, like, oh, I'm going to spend, I don't know, 5 grand on a pair of runners. It's like, why? Like, so someone stranger looks at you and goes, that guy's cool. He's got expensive runners. Like, I think when you've matured a little bit and you're in a good relationship, you're not making silly decisions like that. Anyway.
So we're getting to the end of the walk talk, but if you have a chance to do something to change the world and to deliver a message to your fans as well? So first, what do you think? What you could change the world if you can change? What you would change in the world, like economic, religion, anything, to make a world a better place? If you want to make a world a better place, where you will change? What you would change? Take the tax off.
Yeah, take taxes away. I think, like, America is obviously such a heavily influence on the rest of I'll say the world, but certainly on the West. And I think if you look at that country, it's going through a very sort of bad period of like setting groups against groups, whether it's people on the left versus people on the right, whether it's down to race or whether it's down to sexuality, whatever. They've gotten really good, and that's how social media works. At setting people's hair on fire every day, looking at a headline, and then you click on it, and it's like it's your team versus their team. And I think if we could evolve past that and really see that it's not about silly, unimportant differences like what color you and I are, or what if you like, I like men and you like women. These are all, who cares about very minor stuff like that? But instead that we could work together and realize that it's about
develop a better future.
Yeah,
together.
I'm not just saying like poor versus wealthy, but if we could work together and to try to improve everybody's lives, and we have the resources to do it. It's drive you mental when you look at the amount of food that's wasted in the West. That alone, there should be nobody hungry. The amount of land we have, the amount of resources we have. We certainly have the ability for everybody to have at least a good standard of living, a basic good standard of living. Now, you then got to invest in yourself and figure out what is going to make me happy in life. Is it a particular sport, an activity, getting a good partner, having children? I don't know, whatever it is. You take care of that, but at least your belly's full, you got a roof over your head, and then you're somewhat free to explore this incredible planet that we're on. And we're only here for a couple of decades, so to spend some of that time having anonymous arguments with somebody online is just
I know.
not the most productive.
But I think this is the problem. Not many people have this freedom to do this and to achieve this freedom, because the world is based on the capitalism way. You need money to have freedom. I wish we don't have money. This is my way to change the world. Like, take this money out, because money is the root of all of evil. Because imagine if you don't need money. Money make people create products like food, and like even the medicine way side. People don't sell the cure, they sell treatments, so you can keep paying, doing the treatment. Instead they sell the cure, you go away, don't spend more money. No, but they want to sell the fucking treatment, so you spend a lot of money in more medicine and stuff, and they make food that make you sick to make more treatments. It's a fucking vicious cycle that I think the money is the evil of everything, but we need the money to live. So
yeah, I mean,
and to be freedom, like you said.
Yeah, a bartering system, I think works for very small goods. Like I grow potatoes and you rear sheep, and I give you some potatoes and you give me a lamb, but like if you want to buy an iPhone, you're into, what are you going to do, a bartering system for that? So capitalism has a lot of very positives and
positive and negative.
What it's done for if you want to talk about the West, but the world in general, and everything's improving. However, you start looking at big pharma, and they're obviously incentivized. If you're the one that's making billions, and they're going, well, we're going to have less profits if we help people get healthy, but if we can keep, I'm watching Dope Sick at the moment, if we can keep people hooked on something or needing something, I
can keep sucking them a little bit.
Yeah, I love.
No, I don't really know how to change the world, but I don't hate the money. We work for the money. We work for to have, like, your hard work. You develop something. You put so much time, and you get that back, like, towards you. It's like money wise, because
I do think
success.
There's a good start. Is people being a little bit more accountable for their own actions. It doesn't matter the circumstances, but I remember one time hearing a guy say, I eat shit foods because that's my doctor's problem. He's the one that has to deal with my health issues. And I think, that's a very weird way of thinking. Like, surely your health issues are your concern. Yeah. And I think if people start with their own lives, we all, like, I do regular, go into schools and do talks. And I say to, I'm talking to kids, what's better? These are not dietitians, these are kids. They all can tell me what a good diet is. No one's confused that a can of Coke and a slice of pizza is not as good for you as steamed vegetables. Everybody knows that. And I think if we can take a little bit more responsibility and be a bit more accountable for our own decisions, whether it's falling into that industry where we are reliant on big pharma and that kind of thing because we're allowing ourselves to get very overweight, we're not focusing on our mental health because we're staring at our phone all day long. Like, we know some of the things we should be doing. It's maybe hard to do and we don't get the quick dopamine hit of posting something online or whatever the case may be, but we know that if we have our day-to-day goals, we're going to follow a decent diet today, we're going to get 20 minutes exercise in. Like, if that's our foundation, some of the other problems will, I think, go away.
Yeah. This is the best advice you can hear for the Coach Kavanagh. So I think it was really enjoyable talk to you. I enjoy. We never stop to talk for 1 hour like this.
I know.
Right?
Life moves so fast.
It's good. And we have a lot of. We didn't stop to think about what you're gonna say. We just talk like it was cool, right? It was a pleasure. Thank you for
talk
to me today.
Very enjoyable.
Guys, thank you so much for watching. It was a pleasure talking to you. Thank you very much for everything. So if you guys want to push a nice shirt, you guys know where to go on the shopping. I'm going to leave on the
I have an old
description
school
below.
Walker shirt here.
I have a nice shirt as well, but we don't produce that anymore. It's just for special guests. And we have a nice books as well. If you want to win or learn, you know where to get this. Go to his page, follow him on his Instagram and everything, his Twitter, John Kavanagh, Coach Kavanagh. He have nice books as well for you guys. It's an amazing history. If you like MMA and the histories, you want to follow something that's you're gonna learn something from him. You win or learn, you know. So you know what to find the book. Go to his Instagram, go to the social media, or buy on the Amazon or everywhere. If you buy a win or learn, you're gonna hear about his history. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoy. Comment below what you guys think and what you guys want to see me doing next.
Comment, like, subscribe. Is that what you got to say?
Comment, like, subscribe. Thank you. Peace, love.